This program is proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited, Daytech, and Fishing Industry Association PNG.
Papua New Guinea's cost of living crisis continues to escalate as families battle to make ends meet, navigating the tough economic climate. The dream of securing affordable housing and home ownership has become all the more challenging. Joining us for discussions, we have Ms. Kim Young from Edai Town and Mr. Tom Snelling, General Manager, houseplace.com.pg. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Firstly, Kim, can you give us a background of the Edai Town Development Limited?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Edai Town Development is about 20 minutes away from Port Moresby. We are on 150 hectares of state title lease, 99-year lease, and we have 3 housing estates, of which we are nearly finished developing the first one, so there's 2 more to go. And we are like a satellite township, so we have 2 large industrial titles and 2 commercial titles. So the whole range, can become a self-contained township.
Tom, what is the core business model for houseplace.com?
Thanks, Malcolm. So Houseplace is a real estate portal, and we list properties for sale and for rent on behalf of agencies, developers, private individuals, and we help to link buyers and renters with vendors and landlords and developers. So we're kind of that middleman. We work with agencies with a variety of people who own real estate or manage real estate, and we showcase their properties. So we are the largest collection of real estate on one website in the country.
Last year you launched the PNG Residential Real Estate Survey. Can you disclose the main findings conducted during the survey?
Sure. So we run a survey on an annual basis. We've actually just finished off the 2024 survey, and we're now analysing the results of that, and that'll be published very soon. But for 2023, we reached out to around about 3,000 respondents who give their opinion on the real estate market. I guess some of the sort of key findings are, real estate is quite unaffordable at the moment. It is a problem both for rentals and on the sales markets, and there's various reasons for that. Although we have seen some recovery following COVID in terms of, say, the higher end of the market, the occupancy has gone up quite significantly. And the lower end of the market, the sort of more affordable side of the market, again, it's not really regarded as affordable. Even 500 kina a week housing is still out of reach for many people. So I think that's the sort of key area that needs to be addressed. It's too expensive, or the quality of housing is below standard.
Now, Kim, what are the income brackets that the homes you are currently building are specified for?
Yes, we started and we're still continuing to try to accommodate the affordable housing market. So in that sense, the entry level, I think you're talking about a fortnightly income between 2,500 to 3,000 kina. That will get you the home loan repayment, because that's how the BSB loan product works. The product itself is very attractive. That's good news for homeowners, because you can go to the bank and you get 4% per annum interest, and the bank lends 90% of the property value, and the loan repayment is 40 years. So my message always to aspiring homeowners is, if you can rent a property, you can actually buy a property. And the challenge is to come up with the equity, because you need 10% equity.
Now, Tom, based on the survey, what were the main influencing factors for the property sector in PNG?
Certainly on the sales market, affordability is one of the key areas for people who want to buy. So no real surprise there. And I think developments like Kim's are very attractive one of the key challenges is the availability of these types of developments. So I think there are issues with titles being issued, particularly if it's, or was customary land and it's moved to state lease or moving to state lease. I think the delays there in actually getting the titles issued tends to be one of the biggest challenges. So it's really the availability of these types of developments that I would say is the biggest challenge. One thing that we did notice that was quite interesting is that the people who responded to our survey are interested in the sort of outskirts of Port Moresby or the satellite areas of Port Moresby, as opposed to the sort of inner cities, the Barocos, North Waiganis, Tokararas. People are actually quite willing to live 8 Mile, 9 Mile, Lea, Napa Napa, that kind of directions, simply because it is more affordable, and generally speaking, the communications and the roads into town are reasonable.
Now, Kim, I would imagine the establishment of trunk infrastructure prior to property development would be a core element of property development in the, as you mentioned, outskirts. How are you able to manage and to get that done?
Yes, really, if you can say it's like a private development, because there is really no infrastructure. I mean, within our titles, we had to carve out, before we even started, we had to cover 1 kilometers of internal, just access to the titles. Water supply doesn't reach that site, so we had to create our own water supply system. Electricity is there, but then we needed to supplement that with our comprehensive gen set, because what we're trying to promote in Adai Town is 24/7 power, 24/7 water, and we've largely achieved that. So that costs money, obviously, and that is one of the challenges of private development.
Are there rental properties offered at Adai Town?
The owners, when they buy, some of them are actually investors, so they do rent their properties. Some, even though they're first home owners, maybe they rent out their rooms or some other arrangement. So we have a mix. So we have a very large mix from entry-level homeowners, first homeowners, to investors, and I think we have a mini PNG. Everybody's in there. As well as international. We've got the whole range. So we go from like less than 500,000 to 1 million, the houses. So we cover to quite a wide segment of the market.
Now, Tom, is there effective regulation of rental markets in Port Moresby and Papua New Guinea as a whole?
There's no price regulation, if that's the question. And, there's several factors there that there probably shouldn't be. But in terms of regulation in legal sense, absolutely, there's a lot of things in play, and I think like the major agencies, the reputable agencies, will follow the rules by the book. They will have a legal lease. They will pay their stamp duties. They will hold deposits in trust and sort of follow the right process. So yes, from that perspective, there is regulation in place, and that is generally followed, certainly by the reputable agencies. There's also the Real Estate Industry Association that the larger agencies are members of, as is House Bless, and again, they have their own internal guidelines that agencies follow. So there's different things in place to ensure that the tenants and the consumer is looked after properly.
Thank you, Tom. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. Now, Kim, how effective has home loans and home ownership schemes been for Papua New Guinea?
Well, I think when we first started, and this was like 10 years ago, we were worried how the houses were going to get to the market because the loans were really quite prohibitive. I mean, the way we look at it, coming from where I'm from, Malaysia. But we persevered and we said something has to happen. So in fact, in 2014, the first home ownership scheme loan which was a joint initiative by the national government and BSP, that really opened up the market. And I say that that is really one of the good products in the world for first home ownership, because it takes into consideration the entry level. It really brought down the equity, as well as because of the extended loan period, it made it quite affordable. And also the low interest rate. So that, and we see a lot of that in Edai Town. I think at least 85% of our homeowners are first homeowners.
Now, Tom, from your perspective, what more should the government be doing to provide a more enabling environment for successful home ownership schemes and affordable housing?
In my opinion, I think it should be more affordable houses to be available. And I think the only way that they can really do that is to make more land available to turn to state lease, which can in fact be developed. And I think that's going to bring a lot of stability to the real estate sales market in particular. It won't be downtown Port Moresby. It's going to be, more like Edai Town in the sort of outer areas, similar, I guess, what they've done in 8 Mile and 9 Mile. And I know there's plans in that direction. But I think it's really a case of sort of fast tracking the titles for these, so that developers like Kim, there's several developers out there, can actually get on, build these houses, market their houses, sell the houses, and I think that's going to make it's going to make life a lot easier for the consumer, for the buyers.
Now, Kim, after completing the Edai Town housing development, what were some of the key lessons you learned?
Well, from the beginning, we said, what is it we're trying to do? So trying to get to affordable housing. So in that sense, I feel like things that still need to be done in this country is you've got to protect the home buyers. There is no legislative framework. So if you have unscrupulous developer, you're going to end up with a lot of unfinished projects. So there should be some framework that determines, especially for the home ownership, the upper end of the market, they can take care of themselves. But particularly where first home owners are concerned, there must be a certain element of protection. And the government, as Tom has said, get more land available. But there are certain other things they can do to increase affordability. For example, the GST, and I've been championing this for at least 10 years now, that as the IRC gives first home ownership some kind of a protection in terms of stamp duty, as well as encouraging employers to get their staff into homes. So if they just reduce or remove the GST on first home ownership, that brings down the price by 10%, and that's nothing to be laughed at. That is really going to help the first home owners, and you do have the framework that you can do that. So I think we have to champion that until that happens.
We are cognizant of the fact that a majority of the land in Papua New Guinea is owned by customary landowners. How can customary landowners best bargain or leverage their land holdings to engage in property development?
I think that there has to be a win-win situation for both the landowners and for the government, as well as the individual buyers, and that there does need to be benefits, not just for the current landowners, but for the future generations. If the standard lease term is going to be 99 years, where we're now talking sort of 2-3 generations, people who aren't born, grandchildren who aren't even born yet, are the ones who are going to be affected at the end of the day, because their land has been sold and their forefathers have taken all of the benefits. So I think I think reinvestment into schools, into public services, health centres, shopping centres, things like this, I think would be a must, with the benefits primarily going to the original landowners and the future generations.
Thank you, Tom. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back to Infocus. Now, Tom, With affordable housing options like the expansion of Edai Town and the establishment of Tuhava Township, who are poised to enter the market, how optimistic should the aspiring homeowner be?
I think there is optimism there. There is work to be done, and there's several other developments out there as well as the two you've just mentioned. And I think the more developments that are there, the more optimistic we should be, because I think that's going to really help to stabilize property pricing, so it doesn't go up and up and up, which unfortunately house prices, or fortunately, depending on if you own a house or not, it will stabilize real estate pricing to a certain extent, and that will help to make things more affordable for the future generations. So yeah, more housing really will help to stabilize pricing.
Kim, what are your future plans for Edai Town moving forward?
Oh, plenty. So we now have 400 odd houses, so we will build another about 100, 150. That will be the first housing estate. So we actually have plans for the second housing estate to start with a slight difference. Papua New Guineans prefer high set, so we're going to do 220 purely high set houses in the development we're going to call West Side. So that would have its own market, I would think. But at the same time, because we say there should be employment, we should be generating opportunities. So we are focusing on the industrial and the commercial, also in anticipation of the Papua LNG that's going to be in our way along our segment of the growth area. So we're really going to do industrial estate. So we're hoping to bring new industries, as well as we're working with the SME Corp to actually build a business incubation center in Edai Town. So all this will create employment opportunities as well as business opportunities, and I think that's important. Housing is the first step. We must put people in a good environment, and the Edai Town population, we actually have very good resources. In fact, I'm doing a survey now as to what we have amongst our population and what they're interested in community service as well as business opportunities or job opportunities. So that is part of really developing a middle income society, and that's very important for any country, to have stability. And you have stability when your people are in good homes and they can take care of themselves, they got something to protect. And for the growth of the country, you need a middle income population. And that is part of what Edai Town hopes to contribute to.
I think ideally it would be a homeowner middle income bulk of the population.
Yes. But I think the other way to look at this is that home ownership is the aspiration, and I would say for aspiring homeowners, get into the property you can afford, not the one that you dream of, because inflation keeps coming, and so if you wait and you wait, the price will go beyond your range. Whereas if you lock in something that you can afford now, then you can upgrade. That's a better way towards home ownership. But if the home ownership is not there yet, you have to save the equity. In the meantime, go and get a proper house that you can rent so that your children, can grow up in a good environment.
Now, Tom, with the major resource projects like Wafi Golpu, Papua LNG and Pasca scheduled to come on stream, how will this impact the property values in the housing market in PNG, given the prior experience?
So back in 2014, when the first LNG projects happened, we saw a huge spike in particularly rental pricing. And it was all about the supply and demand in Port Moresby at the time. So the demand for housing very much outweighed the supply, what was available. So prices went through the roof, significantly. The sales market was also affected because, again, they tend to sort of work to some extent in line. So the sales values of properties in Port Moresby went up as well. Now, ever since then, we've seen pricing sort of slowly going down, and then COVID came along and there was a bit of a dip, and we're probably back to where we should have been had the LNG not started. Now, I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that when these new projects take off. There may be some sort of supply and demand, but it's not going to be a big issue because I think Port Moresby is in a much stronger position. There's a lot more buildings for people to move into. So, and it's not going to be the first LNG project like the first one. So most of the infrastructure is already in place. It's just coming in from a different direction. So I don't think we're going to have that same issue that we had on the first one. I think getting more money coming into the economy, I think that's obviously always going to be a good thing. That should help, goods and services, and I think hopefully general improvements in the city and some sort of stabilization in the property market. But yeah, we won't have that sort of boom and bust that we had last time.
Mr. Tom Schnelling and Kim Yong, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thanks.
Well, viewers, that ends this episode of Infocus. Do join us again next Monday on our regular time slot of 7 p.m. Till then, good night.
This program was proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited, Daytech, and Fishing Industry Association PNG.